But do you think the swamp can be drained of all the corruption you found, or do you think we're in serious trouble?
Well, I mean, there are lots of questions about King Charles and cash for honours and plastic bags of money. So, I mean, which the press don't want to touch. And, there are other members of the royal families. Zara and Peter Phillips have clearly been caught monetising their royal position. There are lots and lots of pictures of Beatrice and Eugenie, for example, with the businessman Johnny Hon supporting his business ventures. We've got Beatrice supporting Saudi banks. So there's quite a lot of this, shall we say, using their royal position to line their own pockets. I think the problem is if you pull the string, the whole thing begins to unravel, and so the strategy is basically to try and hold the fort, and hope that people will go away. But you're absolutely right. I think views are changing. People are much more concerned about it. I mean, they only depend for their survival really on commanding respect and trust, and a lot of that is going. And I think Charles has been very foolish not to take a much firmer hand particularly with Andrew and Sarah, but also with Meghan and Harry. He seems to be weak. Saying that Sarah and Andrew can't come for Christmas is pathetic given some of the things we're seeing. And people have been calling for investigations into their links with Epstein, asking them to present themselves as material witnesses to the authorities, to the lawyers. National Crime Agency has been approached by MPs for years to investigate, and yet nothing ever happens. The Met Police go through the motions and say nothing to see here. And I think this is shaking people's faith in institutions. They do feel there's a cover-up, and they do feel there's one rule for the rich and powerful and another for everyone else. And we're seeing it clearly in the States, and I think we're seeing it in a big way here. I think it's a very worrying sign. I mean, the support for the monarchy has dropped, as you say, to I wouldn't say an all-time low, but a pretty low figure. And people who previously would have been pretty strong supporters of the monarchy, people perhaps like us, are now questioning it and concerned about its future. So,
do you know the problem I've got, Andrew, as well? And I did some research into this, is what kind of role does Charles hold when it comes to the Church of England? Because there's been lots of safeguarding issues and there's been some SA reports and things like that. And if you are head of the Church of England, you would think you would do something, would you not? But no, it's ceremonial. You're no king of mine putting on a crown and doing nothing. And I think a lot of people are getting to this point.
To be fair to him, I mean, it is a difficult role balancing, the ability to, shall we say, interfere and to warn and do other things, the budget rules, and not to be seen as too political. Who knows what he may have been doing behind the scenes? But yes, I mean, there are concerns. His support for a series of people, Bishop Bull is another, but Jimmy Savile, all these people, clearly very damaging for their reputation. He's perhaps been loyal too long to some of these people, or is rather naive. And he just needs to have a little bit more ruthlessness. And I think William will have that. And maybe William will have to clear up this mess, because at the moment, there's no sign Charles is doing it.
I mean, Diana was right, wasn't she, all those years ago? He is a weak man, and he's not strong enough to be king.
Yes, I mean, again, it's always difficult to get this balance between the ceremonial and the. I think the Queen was good. I mean, I think she clearly did have quite strong feelings, which she exercised in a very discreet way behind the scenes. He's only been in this position for a few years. Maybe he's still learning the ropes a bit, but he had a long apprenticeship to work out things. And maybe some of the problems are different. I often wonder whether people who are briefing the media are not always speaking for him. He's not always fully in control of what his advisors are doing. But that's again a sign of a weak leader. So it's always too little, too late. Always trying to catch up with what's going on rather than trying to get ahead of the story and kill it, really.
I mean, we say they're not political and they're not meant to be political, but they seem to become very political behind the scenes when someone is being accused within the family of SA and they want to squash something, and they don't, they're paying politicians, you found, didn't you, from your research?
Well, I don't know if they're paying politicians, but there's clearly pressure put on the media to suppress stories. So I think the most well known is the story of Amy Robach at ABC Television. And ABC Television had an investigation into Andrew and Jeffrey. And the palace basically shut that down by saying, if you run this story, we will no longer let you interview the Prince and Princess of Wales. And there's quite a lot of that sort of pressure. There's a lot of patronage. So a lot of the MPs I wanted to talk to, or ministers, I discovered seemed to have government or palace jobs. So they're quite subtle the way they pull various levers. And of course, we've got this position where there's not meant to be any parliamentary scrutiny of the royals, parliamentary questions. They're not subject to the Freedom of Information Act. Attempts to get a royal register 20 years ago to register their interests, as MPs have to do, didn't really come to anything. So and there's this deference, and I would say almost obsequiousness towards the royals that means that you can't actually do anything when you see things which are clearly wrong and clearly not in their own long-term interests. And you would have thought that they would see the reputational damage of people like Andrew and Sarah and addressed it much, much earlier. As you say, in 2010 with Sarah in the Newsnight interview, 2022 with the Salman Turk case, it's always sort of sticking your head in the sand and hope the problem will go away.
Before we go on to Epstein, I just want to revisit what you said about cash in suitcases. Is this reports of cash in suitcases being delivered to King Charles or to Andrew?
Well, actually both. I mean, certainly I've got information about him taking commission in Kazakhstan. It's not in the book, but I'm hoping to get more information for the paperback. And that was reported to the Queen, and they were told, you just forget it. It's not going to go anywhere. There are certainly stories about Charles taking money from people for Dumfries House and for some of his charities. People being promised honours in return for giving contributions to these charities. He's got involved with all sorts of strange people like James Sturt, who was the son-in-law of Bernie Ecclestone, and had himself some shall we say, underworld contacts. So, again, naive to involve yourself with people like that who are going to take advantage of you and are using you, playing you. And that's exactly what Andrew did with Epstein. It was, someone described the rattlesnake and the mouse. And Epstein was able to play Andrew. He used Andrew as a useful idiot. He gave him respectability and status, gave him access. And in return, Andrew got some bills paid for Fergie, access to young women, and again, some more useful contacts for his businesses.
And the association with Epstein started before they claim it did, from your research.
Yes, I mean, the line from them is they met in the late 1990s and they parted company in 2010, beginning of 2011. But the fact is, according to Alistair Watson, who was Andrew's private secretary, writing to the Times, not even something he told me, that relationship began in the early 90s, that they saw them on a regular basis. I mean, there was something called the Britannia Suite at the house in New York because they stayed so often. We've got plenty of testimony from Epstein's staff showing them staying, both of them, a lot. And then we have this testimony from Sarah saying that, in 2011, having said she was going to cut off contact with Epstein, that in fact he was a dear friend of hers, etc. We've got Andrew writing to him in 2011 saying, let's play a bit more. And I've got testimony from the doorman of a Epstein block of flats where she's staying in 2013. So, you can't take anything they say, I'm afraid, at face value. They've got so used to lying and getting away with it that they don't even tell very good lies now.
And is there, would you say, a PDF problem within the royal family when it comes to, people like Andrew. Because obviously with Epstein, we've seen the what's gone on is very prevalent across everywhere he is. It's, you couldn't hide it. If you were in his house, you knew exactly what was going on by the reports.
Well, yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I think Sarah was staying there. She must have noticed the phallic soaps and the pictures on the wall and stuff. So I think, I talked funny enough to someone very close to her the other night, who said, of course she knew and she didn't care. And I can't speak to the rest of the royal family, but certainly Andrew had slept with a lot of people who were underage and teenagers. And again, some of that stuff I'm going to add to the paperback. Again, we had legal considerations there, but I've now been able to stand some of that stuff up. So yeah, I mean, he was pretty undiscriminating about who he was involved with.
I thought what was so upsetting as well is when Virginia had ultimately, blown the whistle and whistle-blown on everything, and how Andrew and Epstein weaponized their money and power to silence people. And I thought, how dare you? Like, I'm a mother of 2 girls. And if that was my children and I didn't have money to go up, and I don't, against someone like Epstein and Andrew, justice, forget it, not happening. And I think it's a crime that makes me incandescent with rage, because until we're all safe, none of us are safe. And these 1%ers, they're just laughing. They just get a Harbottle and Lewis or a Schillings law firm or whoever it may be, blank check, deal with it. And it has to stop. I wonder if you can tell the viewers about that situation with, the whole.
There's certainly a lot of intimidation, and you're absolutely right. Rich and powerful people use SLAPS, strategic law. I can't remember what it stands for actually, but basically use the legal system to suppress people's talking. Loopholes. But yes, of course. I mean, I've had several letters, or my publishers have, from Schillings. Often these are just try-ons. I mean, often you get one letter, you do a response, and you never hear anything more. But attempts to undermine the credibility of the book, for example, so you then can tweet, well, this wasn't right. It had to be, they had to do a denial. But we've made 2 corrections to the book, not because the material wasn't actually accurate, but because the publishers couldn't face an extended lawsuit and the costs of that and the hassle. Because, as you say, these people have bottomless pockets, and they will just do it to kind of undermine the book. And one was involved with President Trump and material relating to Melania, and he put a lot of pressure. There was $1 billion suit against HarperCollins' sort of parent company, and understandably they decided this wasn't a fight worth having. So changes were made. Prince Harry complained about something which actually wasn't defamatory and was true. But again, we made some changes in order just not to be just another of his endless legal fights. But yeah, there's a lot of that stuff. But certainly, Sarah's lawyer wrote to Collins before the book was published, saying, we're watching you. Be careful what you put in this book. We're monitoring Andrew Lownie's social media. The attempt to intimidate. It's sort of mafia.
Give them a wave, Andrew.
I'd like to say hello to Mr. Paul Tweed. So yeah, and of course, we were very careful what we put in, and they would be mad to bring a case, because of course the amount of material that one has that hasn't been used in the book, which would be deeply discreditable to them, one would of course be able to deploy. So but there's an awful lot of this sort of pretend, really shouting that trying to as I say, put people off by pretending the stuff isn't true when it is.
Well, it's just bullying tactics, and ultimately, for many, many years, by and large, the royals have held the press by the neck and told them what they can and can't write, and now the floodgates are open. And thank goodness for people like you who are diligently researching and meticulously, making sure you've got these things double sourced, and then you can share it with us. I really
Well,
loved in the book that you wrote how Epstein was kind of lobbying for Andrew to get a paid gig at JP Morgan. And then you've got Andrew lobbying to reduce Epstein's 2008 sweetheart deal. And this deal, this whole thing, this was around underage girls and the R word and SA. It's sickening, Andrew.
yeah.